It all begins with Jake's kids flying through the skies, laughing and having fun as they ride their beasts. When they come back down to the ground, Loak's brother tells him it's time to go. Before they part ways, Loak asks him how he died, and his brother answers plain and simple that he was shot. In truth, this is a painful memory from Loak's mind, deeply scarred by the death of his older brother Neytiri. Loak says he had to go back for Spider, but deep down he knows the tragedy was his father's fault. He knows they should never have been there, and that they ended up captured for disobeying direct orders. Coming out of that memory, Loak admits he knows he caused his brother's death and accepts that he'll have to live with that guilt for the rest of his life. Meanwhile, Kiri talks with Spider and tells him she wants to connect with him, but she can't because she suffers from seizures. The scene then shifts to Neytiri singing for her son's life, while Loak's voice reflects on the ways of the Na'vi and those of his father. Stay quiet, say nothing, and always keep moving. The reef people believe the sea is what clears the mind. Jake and his son find a bow out on the reef, but Jake asks him not to show it to his mother, even though they end up revealing more weapons to the tribe. Since Tyrea was with them, Ronal scolds her for going after metal weapons, which are forbidden, warning that even stones can stop the heart of the sea. Jake says his son now rests in the reef, and that they were lucky to survive, even though the pain of that loss never fades. There's a belief that when you ride the beast, you become one with it. Still, Jake flat out refuses to take on the role of Torok Makto again, which angers the others. Meanwhile, Colonel Miles Quaritch and the RDA keep up their relentless hunt for the Na'vi. They find no clear trail, and some suggest giving up, but Quaritch makes it clear he has one mission: to kill a specific target, and he won't stop until it's done. In the end, Loak admits that everything he touches seems to fall apart. Even though they never spoke about it openly, he was there, and he carries the weight of what happened. Jake later talks with Neytiri about faith, saying everyone claims Awa will provide, but bitterly points out that the goddess wasn't there when their son needed protection. Neytiri says with quiet sadness that her father's bow is broken, and that in this place she has nothing left. No forest, no family, no tribe, only her faith. Jake reminds her that she still has him, and tells her he loves her with all his heart. Later, the kids meet up with Payakan. They feel it's unfair that the creature is exiled, even though everyone blames him for many deaths, and they promise they'll stay together forever. When night falls, Spider suffers a seizure, so the next day they warn him to be much more careful. Soon after, the arrival of the Windwalkers is announced, riding their majestic creatures. As Kiri brushes Spider's hair, Jake suggests that maybe Spider should leave with them, but no one agrees, and his kids strongly push back. Neytiri, meanwhile, is consumed by anger, projecting her grief over her son's death, which sparks tension with the others, especially Kiri. After a heated argument, everyone walks away, leaving Jake alone with Neytiri. In the end, they decide to send Spider with a caravan, and to ease the kids' frustration, Jake suggests the whole family go along to see him off. The leader of the Windwalkers warns them there's only room for Spider, but Jake manages to convince him, promising they'll protect the caravan like real soldiers. The family climbs aboard and says goodbye to those they know, watching closely as the transport maneuvers unfold. Later on, Loak, still weighed down by grief, thinks he hears his brother's voice in the wind. His father snaps at him for not using the transmitter, scolding him and saying he can't even get that right. Back at the base, the colonel secures the family's coordinates, and at the same time, the Ash people launch a sabotage attack. Jake tells Loak to look after his sister, but in the middle of the mission, he forgets the transmitter and, when he tries to get it back, realizes it's been burned. Meanwhile, Spider's life is at risk as his gear battery starts to run out. Loak decides to mount his beast and drops down to fight. At the same time, an enemy from the Ash clan catches up to Spider and tries to kill him. Spider fights back bravely but can't finish the job until a Na'vi shows up just in time and helps him escape unharmed. Elsewhere, Jake loses his balance, falls from his mount, and ends up hanging dangerously from a rope. Neytiri faces Varang, the leader of the Ash clan, in a brutal fight, and Varang manages to wound her with an arrow. Despite the pain, Neytiri rips the arrow out and keeps fighting, refusing to give up. When her strength finally runs out, she falls into the forest, saved only because the thick vegetation breaks her fall. Kiri and Spider rush to save their siblings. They get Little Took to safety first, then secure Spider. Jake manages to mount another creature, but communications are down and he can't reach Neytiri. In the middle of the chaos, the siblings lose control and plunge into the dense forest below. Since Spider's spare battery was left on the ship, they try to head back, but when they look through a weapons scope, they're horrified to see the Ash clan leader celebrating the slaughter she's caused. As Varang examines a corpse with her knife, she finds a bullet, something she has never seen before. At last, the Sullys begin to flee by sea after being spotted from afar, while Jake desperately searches for his family with no answer, until Neytiri's mount finally finds her. Spider is now out of backups and power, so Loak decides the safest move is to head back, taking a longer route to avoid being seen. Meanwhile, Jake manages to find the spare gear, but at that very moment, the colonel shows up with another soldier and demands that he talk. Jake explains what happened during the Ash People attack. It's also revealed that Spider is Colonel Quaritch's son, and when the Colonel finds out that Jake recovered the masks and the spare battery and fears for his child's life, he forces Jake to lead them straight to him. Meanwhile, the kids realize Spider is starting to run out of air, and they rush desperately to find help. Kiri, however, notices a nearby creature and, following a strong instinct, asks her brother Loak, who is carrying Spider, to take him to solid ground and lay him down. Then Kiri takes a spiritual creature and places it inside Spider's mouth. Guided by her intuition, she asks her siblings to stay completely silent. Kiri begins to connect with nature to save Spider and asks Loak to remove his mask. The connections slowly begin to activate. However, Kiri starts suffering seizures, forcing Loak to break the link. Everything points to Spider being dead, and everyone breaks down in tears. Yet minutes later, Spider comes back to life and starts moving and breathing on his own without needing the mask. Spider feels overwhelming joy, but as he gets excited and makes noise, they alert the Ash clan, who move in armed with fire arrows. They're finally captured and shown the weapon. Varang, the leader, interrogates Spider, asking how he's still alive if the air kills those who come from the sky, meaning humans. Kiri steps in and says it was Awa who saved him. Varang then threatens Spider, demanding that he teach her how to use the bullet weapon, or she'll cut off Kiri's head. Jake arrives to confront them, but the Ash clan members take him down with ease. At that moment, Colonel Quaritch shows up armed and manages to take out several of them. Varang becomes intrigued, captures him, and connects with him. Though Quaritch survives the link, she demands that he teach her how to use the weapon, and the soldier agrees. Varang fires wildly, celebrating in frenzy alongside her clan. After that, she declares they no longer need him and orders everything prepared for the sacrifice. As the rituals are set in motion, Kiri reconnects with the land and makes the plant silently attack some of the Ash clan warriors. Taking advantage of the chaos, she and her family use knives to break free. At that moment, Neytiri arrives riding her beast alongside the Metkayina clan, their allies, including Ronal, who tries to keep her safe. Varang calls off the sacrifice when she realizes the Sullys have managed to escape. Even though she notices their retreat, she chooses not to chase them right away, since they lost their trail by fleeing through the water. Still, she warns they will keep hunting them from the air. In the end, Ronal manages to revive Neytiri. The wound wasn't serious because it was treated in time, and as soon as she wakes up, the first thing she asks about is her children. Ronal tells her to rest, but Neytiri can't be held back, and, determined, mounts her beast to go after her family. Meanwhile, the kids make it safely to the other side and try to rest. Colonel Quaritch then turns to Jake and tells him that Spider is a good kid, that he raised him well, but that doesn't change his personal business. He still plans to hand him over, even if he has to do it dead. Jake tells him that this world isn't what he thinks, that he's seen it with his own eyes, and that he should stay there. But the Colonel makes it clear it doesn't matter because he hasn't forgotten which side he belongs to, even if he now has a different body and a different color. As the hours pass, the Flyers finally appear. However, they turn out to be allies of Ronal's tribe, arriving to rescue them. By then, the Colonel and his soldier have already fled. The Sully family is reunited, and the others are stunned to discover that Spider can now breathe without any difficulty. Later on, the Colonel and his soldier are shown arriving back at the RDA base. Meanwhile, aboard the Allied ship, the Sullys are told that Spider has mycelium inside him, the same substance that makes up the forest. There are multiple cellular level alterations keeping him alive, but they warn that any attempt to interfere could be fatal. After that, Kiri tries to connect in order to speak with the goddess Awa. She wants to understand how she managed to save Spider and how she's able to form such deep connections, but she receives no response at all. When she pushes the connection too far, she begins to convulse, yet Ronal steps in just in time and saves her. Later, Kiri meets with her mother. Neytiri admits that ever since Kiri was born, they knew she had touched the hand of the Great Mother. Kiri insists on knowing the truth, and Neytiri finally reveals that she has no father. She explains that her mother, Grace's avatar, was studied by Norm, who discovered that her genes are identical to those of the avatar itself. There is no biological father. It was Awa's will. When Grace's body stood before the Great Mother, a seed was planted, and from it Kiri was born. Ronal then tells Kiri that she is Awa's daughter. Jake steps in and assures her that no matter what happened, she is still his little girl, and that he is the only father she has and needs. Still, they realize they don't understand why Awa can't connect with her, and they warn her to avoid trying again, because another connection could cost her life. Later on, Jake says that if the RDA manages to capture Spider, they're finished. Neytiri, consumed by grief, argues that if Spider is that much of a threat, they should kill him. Jake refuses and decides the safest move is to take Spider back to the reef to protect him. The story then shifts to a disturbing moment, where a group of scientists captures a massive Tulkun from the Na'vi world for experimentation. Meanwhile, Ronal starts arguing with Neytiri, unable to believe how her daughter managed to let Spider breathe. Neytiri, clearly shaken, warns her not to comment on it, or she might forget that Ronal is pregnant, making her rage and pain painfully clear. Later on, the tribal council gathers and announces that the exiled Tulkun attacked the demon ship. They claim the exile will only bring more death, that he cannot remain in those waters, and that his banishment will be permanent. The decision is final. Payakan withdraws in sorrow, saying they will never hear his song again. Loak steps forward and says the decision is unfair, that Payakan fought alongside them and even saved Sireya's life. He warns that the Tulkun are being hunted and are dying, but no one listens to him. Jake pulls Loak aside to talk, but the conversation quickly turns tense. Jake loses his temper and tells him that the exiled Tulkun was the one who came looking for him, and that now everything is out of control because they are at war. Then, filled with anger, he reminds Loak that if he hadn't disobeyed orders, his brother would still be alive. Hurt, Loak walks away. When Jake returns, Neytiri confronts him for not going after their son and warns that they could lose another child. The argument escalates fast, and Neytiri admits that she hates Spider, that if it weren't for him, their son would still be alive, and that she hates humans. Jake, wounded, answers that then she must hate him too, his life, and even their own children, because deep down they are human as well. Neytiri admits it's true, but in the end they both apologize, knowing they have to stay united. Loak walks away and picks up a weapon, remembering how everyone told him that when iron touches their skin, they die. Just then, Kiri and Sireya arrive and tell him he has to stay in this world, that he's not alone, and that they must stick together. Later on, Kiri connects Spider to a sea creature. Meanwhile, the Colonel arrives with another tribe searching for Spider, but no one gives him answers. Because of that, he decides to go see the leader of the Ash people. He tells her he's brought a gift for her Tsahik Varang, a weapon, and promises there will be many more. As they try to talk, Varang shows signs of attacking, but the soldier with the Colonel shoots one of her own. Varang then takes him inside and tells him she has someone who can help him find the man he's looking for. She forces him to inhale a white powder, and as the Colonel's vision starts to blow, she explains that she commands fire because when she was a child, her people were attacked. She says her tribe does not surrender to death, that it turns its back on Ewa, whom she sees as a weak mother for weak children. She says they don't hide under a cloak of weakness, and that from now on, only the truth will come from her tongue. Varang warns that she will eat his heart, but before that, he will have to answer her questions. Quaritch admits he came looking for her because he needs her, though she makes it clear she doesn't need him. Even so, she hints that she might keep him as a slave for her own pleasure. Quaritch replies with irony that it sounds fun, but it's not what he's after. He says he's never had an equal, and that if Varang wants to spread her fire across the world, he'll give her every kind of weapon. He promises that the clans, as far as her flight can reach, will bow to her, and that if she wants to challenge Ewa, he's the right man for the job. This is how we see the Colonel join forces with Varang, bringing her weapons and advanced technology she never had. Meanwhile, Kiri tells Spider that when she connects again someday, he could be her spiritual guide. At that moment, the arrival of the Communion of the Calves is announced, 1-year-old Tulkun about to make their first bond with Ewa. Meanwhile, Sireya tells Loak that her Tulkun said the exiled Payakan has been singing, calling out to his birth clan. She explains that a Tulkun song travels very far beneath the water, so Loak asks for the location and decides to go after him. Sireya and other youths follow, since she feels responsible. Jake wants to go after his son, but the Tsahik forbid it, saying the warriors must stay for the communion of the baby Tulkun, which will take place in a few days. They convince Jake not to go, reminding him that his son is brave. Meanwhile, Kiri kisses Spider, and as they return, they're attacked by the Ash people and are forced to run. Still, Spider is captured and taken away. Kiri rushes back with the news, but she arrives too late. The Colonel and Varang have already shown up, the Sullys are gone, and Neytiri refuses to leave her husband behind, determined to stay and fight at his side. After the fire attack, Jake steps out to face them. The Colonel wants to take both Jake and Neytiri, but Jake refuses. He raises his hand and warns that if he lowers it, everyone dies, so the Colonel must agree to take only him. The Colonel accepts the deal, and in the end, they take Jake alone. The Colonel then leads the Ash people back to the base, and Spider manages to see that Jake is also being held prisoner. There, the Colonel presents himself to the General and reports that the mission has been completed. The General acknowledges the success but makes it clear she won't tolerate hostiles like the Ash people and orders them to leave, since their presence isn't allowed. Still, what matters is that the mission is done, and everyone celebrates Jake's capture. Meanwhile, Spider is subjected to experiments by the scientists. Elsewhere, Loak fails to find Payakan, but Sireya and the others manage to locate him. Loak then realizes they're being stalked by hostile creatures, and they're forced to run. When they're attacked, they help each other and barely make it out alive. Sireya also insists that Payakan is close. Later on, the scientists conclude that Spider has become a rare anomaly. The mycelium lives inside him and completely alters him, but they want to know if it can be replicated. At the same time, the Colonel speaks with Spider and tells him he is his son, but Spider answers that his father is dead. The Colonel says he's proud of him, thanks him for saving his life once, and tells him he looks a lot like his mother. He explains that he only wanted Spider to know he has his support if he ever needs it, and before leaving, he gives him his medal, engraved with his name, Miles Quaritch. Back with the young ones, they finally reach Payakan. He warns them that something is wrong, saying he found his birth clan, but only one survivor remains. She introduces herself as Tanakh, appears covered in wounds with harpoons stuck in her body, completely blind, and reveals that it was all done by the Sky People. Meanwhile, aboard the ship, we learn that during the eclipse, when the Tolkien gather, they plan to carry out a massacre and wipe them all out. Ian, the marine biologist, explains that these creatures have brilliant minds, have names, communicate, and show extraordinary behavior, but he's silenced because the mission is to exterminate them and claim their prize. At the same time, the Colonel goes to see Jake and tells him his time has come, that he'll be executed by firing squad the next day, and that it will be a big show. Jake answers that he died a long time ago, that what's inside that body are just the memories of a dead man, and that out there are incredible things this planet has to offer, if he would just look with the new eyes he now has. The Colonel isn't convinced and tells him he'll see him at his execution at 6 hours. Meanwhile, Neytiri uses her bow to take down members of the Ash People in order to infiltrate the base where Jake is being held. At the same time, Spider uses the Colonel's medal to escape his room, and once he gets out, he throws it to the ground because it means nothing to him. In parallel, Jake's execution is about to begin, while Spider also blends into the crowd, determined to save him. Neytiri clashes with Varang as Quaritch steps out of the hut and gets Jake's location, but a single mistake causes Varang to turn and attack her. At the same time, Ian, the biologist, also manages to sneak in to save Jake, knowing he's the only one who can stop what's coming for the Tolkien. As Neytiri starts blowing up the base with the explosive arrows Jake gave her, the biologist uses a machine to free Jake and hide him, keeping him from being hurt. The biologist helps Jake, and together they decide to go look for Neytiri. Along the way, the biologist tells him they're planning to attack the Tolkien during the communion of the calves, set to happen during the eclipse. When he tries to keep helping, the biologist falls behind, and Jake tells him to run and save himself. At that moment, just as they're about to shoot him, Spider steps in and stands in front of Jake, knowing they won't fire, since he's the key that allows humans to breathe in that environment without masks. Neytiri arrives to rescue Jake, taking down a ship in the process. There, Jake tells his wife that the Tolkien will go extinct if they're hunted down completely, and that he won't let that happen. He believes the only way to stop it is to kill Spider, because if the RDA manages to study him and replicate his ability to breathe in that world, nothing will stop them, and they'll wipe out all life, just like they did on Earth. Neytiri refuses to allow it, reminding Jake that Spider saved her life, but Jake insists it's the only option. He then calls Spider and leads him into the forest. Jake forces Spider to kneel and asks the Great Mother to guide his hand, to let the ancestors receive him and accept him. Spider asks if Jake still loves him, and Jake answers that he does, with all his heart. Just as he's about to do it, he turns the weapon aside at the last second. At that moment, Neytiri arrives and the three of them embrace, promising that no matter what happens, they'll find a way to fix everything. After that, Jake climbs to the highest peak to tame and reunite with his old friend Toruk, knowing that in the past they were powerful together, and that when they flew, there was always blood. When he appears before the tribe, everyone kneels before him. Jake asks them to go to all the surrounding clans and tell them that Toruk Makto calls them to announce that the day has finally come. And so, the call to all clans begins. Toruk Makto gathers them all, and in his speech, says that many arrows bound together cannot be broken, and that they will not be able to break them all. Still, Jake knows that isn't enough, and that they need even more allies. So they seek support from the great creatures, the Elder Tolkien. The creature answers that they respect Toruk Makto, but believe killing is not the way, since it goes against their traditions. Jake warns that the Sky People will not stop until they hunt the very last Tolkien. At that moment, Loek arrives and tries to speak, but Ronald's mate tells him that his Tolkien is exiled and that he shouldn't be there. Loek replies that then he will be exiled as well. Ronald's children rise up, saying they will be exiled too if he isn't allowed to speak, because they are the children of the Tsahik. The matriarchs agree to hear him out. Loak explains that his Tolkien brother returned to his birth clan, but only one survivor remained, badly wounded. He reveals that the RDA is hunting all the Tolkien. Then the wounded one moves forward and says she speaks for her brothers, for the song silenced by the Sky People, and for her people who no longer exist. She says she is the last of her clan, the blind witness to that massacre, that Payakan is the one who shows the way, and that to do so they must fight. The matriarchs withdraw, saying they will think about it. Meanwhile, the general tells the colonel that he is no longer allowed to take part in the meeting, that he is a disgrace to the uniform, and that he is officially confined, a permanent decision. At the same time, Kiri approaches Ronald to pray. Ronald asks her why she came with her clan, suggesting it may have been for this exact moment, and says that only a chosen one can call upon the warrior mother. Just then, Ronald goes into labor and tells Kiri that if she can do anything, she must do it without hesitation. Neytiri tells Loak that if she and his father don't return, he must take Spider and his sisters as far and as fast as he can. Soon after, the humans arrive in Na'vi territory to begin the Tulkun hunt. The attack order is given, but as they move in, they realize the elders and the mothers aren't there, so they hesitate and stop. At that moment, Payakan lets out a roar, and the matriarch is the first to charge into battle. It becomes clear she has chosen to fight to save her species. The Na'vi join the fight as well, including Ronal. Even while pregnant, they manage to take down all the humans who came to attack. However, the Ash people arrive and enter the battle, shifting the tide of the fight. Kiri can't bear watching her allies fall one by one and realizes she must call the Great Mother, so she dives into the water. Kiri begins to connect with the Great Mother and calls out to her, asking for help as their only hope. Spider joins her, and together they invoke her. In the middle of the battle, Little Tuck also joins them, and the three of them united start calling to the Mother. While the fighting continues on the surface, just as they manage to reach the Great Mother, gunfire erupts nearby and the connection is suddenly broken. Back in the fight, it's clear they're losing ground. Varang burns the wing of Neytiri's mount, and a human machine manages to wound Ronal. Now they go after Jake and succeed in taking him down. The kids come out of the water, but Kiri stays submerged. Jake tells Neytiri to get to safety and not to attack. Neytiri rushes to help Ronal. She knows she's dying, but Ronal refuses to go without giving birth, so she starts pushing, while Spider finds Kiri, who connects with a creature sent by Ewa. Ronal gives birth to her baby and names her Prill, then passes away. Neytiri promises she will take care of her. Meanwhile, Loak reaches his wounded father, and Jake tells him he did more than enough, that he's proud of him now because he made the Tulkun fight. Then we see the Colonel kidnap Little Took. After that, Neytiri is found by the Colonel and Varang, and she's taken away along with the baby. At the same time, the humans manage to corner the Tulkun, and just as they're about to wipe them all out, Kiri connects and Mother Ewa appears. Countless creatures rise from the depths and obey Kiri, who commands them to destroy every last enemy. Jake's Torok awakens and calls out to its own kind, who swoop in and begin attacking the riders of the Ash clan. Everyone joins the fight, and the tide of the battle finally turns. The general tries to escape the ship, but she's told they no longer have functioning thrusters. Elsewhere, we see the scientist who once hunted the Tulkun, the same one who blinded the Tulkun from Payakan's clan, being dragged down into the depths. The general and the few remaining survivors decide to abandon the ship to save themselves. Meanwhile, the Colonel and Varang keep Neytiri, the baby, and Took with them, so they contact Jake through the intercom and demand that he bring Spider, warning him that they have his wife. Spider, with Kiri by his side, speaks to the Colonel over the intercom and says he's close, telling him to release Neytiri and take only him. The Colonel agrees, claiming everything is settled and that everyone will be going home. At that moment, Jake appears, reaching the ship alongside his son. He tells Loak to watch his back and to strike only those he does not love. Jake fights his way through, striking down members of the Ash clan to reach the general, while Loak takes on the rest. Varang is the last one standing, chasing Neytiri, but Kiri arrives to save her and connects with Varang, proving she's stronger and terrifying her. Varang panics and flees, and Kiri manages to protect her mother. Meanwhile, the Colonel grabs Spider and takes him away, but Jake goes after them. Jake manages to get Spider back, but they end up dangerously close to the magnetic field and fall. The Colonel moves in to kill Jake, but Spider stops him and shoots him in the arm with a bow. The final fight begins. Spider stays by Jake's side as he and the Colonel battle fiercely near the magnetic field. Spider reloads the bow and follows them, but he slips, and just as he's about to die, the Colonel goes back for him, showing that he does care, and grabs him by the arm. By doing that, the Colonel ends up hanging as well, forcing Jake to save them both. The three of them manage to pull away from the magnetic field. At that moment, Neytiri and the children arrive, ready to attack the Colonel, but Jake stops them. In the end, the Colonel chooses to throw himself into the magnetic field. Now everyone comes together and embraces, united as the family they truly are. The film ends with the line, "The light always returns." All the tribes connect with the Great Mother, Ewa, who carries all her children in her heart and keeps them together, while life flows like the breath of the world. We also see that Payakan is finally accepted by his clan. In the spiritual realm, the living and the dead reunite, and this bond travels through the strength of the ancestors. The tree of the Great Mother links every tribe across the planet. In this way, the Na'vi reunite with those who rest in peace. Kiri finally meets her mother and introduces her to Spider, who is accepted as part of the clan. And that's how this story ends. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more. See you next time.